हरि ओम ज्ञानानंदमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवम् उपास्महे. We all know that the Shravana Purnima day is celebrated as World Sanskrit Day. The main reason behind this celebration is to promote the Sanskrit language, its usage in the modern day, and popularize the language among the public. There are so many hidden treasures in the form of knowledge in this divine language. Having realized its value, importance and significance, the government of India decided to celebrate Sanskrit Day in the year 1969. Okay, now why this should be particularly celebrated on the Shravana Purnima day? Because in our tradition, we start the initiation of Vedic studies only on this day. Apasambha Maharshi, he says that Shravanyam Paurnamasyam Adhyayam Upakritya Masa Pradoshena Adhiyita Taishyam Paurnamasyam Rohinyam Ba Virameta. So this is considered to be the apt day to begin the Vedic studies. When a brahmachari, his Upanayana ceremony is over, then he will be sent to the Gurukulam to start his Vedic studies. And this particular Shravana Purnima day is considered to be the most auspicious, relevant and apt day to begin his Vedic studies. So, following the tradition, we also celebrate the Sanskrit day on this Shravana Purnima. So, this will also explain us why our Sanskrit language is also called as Sanskritam, Deva Bhasha, Daivi Bhasha, Daivi Vak, Girvani, and all such things. So here, once Bharatam was Vishwaguru. When Bharatam was Vishwaguru, means it was teaching the entire universe, entire world. Students from different parts of the world, from different countries, from Japan, from China, from Africa, like that, from different continents and countries, students would come to India for higher studies, to widen their horizon of knowledge, to learn Sanskrit. So at that time, Sanskrit was the prominent language and it occupied the main place of education, and at that time India was the Vishwaguru. So when Sanskrit was the backbone of the teaching and learning methodology, Bharatam, our country, it held the position as Vishwaguru. So that is why Sanskrit is very important for Bharat. Now, if we want to retain that position as Vishwaguru, during those times, there are a lot of universities like Takshashila, Nalanda, and all these universities were a very celebrated place, a dream place for students around the world to come and pursue their higher studies. So, for that, this language was very apt and useful. That is why this language is called Sanskritam. We all know that the definition of Sanskrit means Samyak Kritam. It is a flawless language. It is a well refined, well thought out, well done language. And since it has got a lot of association with the divine qualities, it is also called as Suravan. Because when we talk of the Vedic literature, we cannot start without referring to the Vedas. So when according to our tradition, this Vedic knowledge is a revealed knowledge. So the Paramatma, he revealed the knowledge of Vedas to Brahma on this Shravana Purnima day. That is what our belief is. And later Brahma passed on the knowledge of these Vedas to the celestial rishis, and in turn they passed on this to their mortal companions. So that is how the knowledge of Vedas and the language came to us. So it is aptly called as Devabhasha, Girvani, Daivi Vak, etc. Sanskrit is considered to be the storehouse of knowledge. It has got a lot of subjects in it. It encompasses various subjects like Siksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha, Niruktam, Jyotisham, Kalpa. Like that, there are more such subjects starting from grammar, phonetics, linguistics, whatnot, astrology, astronomy, literature. We have got wide variety of subjects present in this divine language. Now we can see the different knowledge system which are present in Sanskrit, like mathematics, science, agriculture, even in medicine, engineering, economics, politics, literature, philosophy, and whatnot. So this is only a small list, just like showing the tip of the iceberg. The list is exhaustive. So there is a popular saying available in Mahabharata. It says, "Yadi hasti tadanyatra, enne hasti natatkwachit." It means whatever knowledge found elsewhere is found in Mahabharata also. If something is not found in Mahabharata, that thing cannot be found elsewhere. So the same sentence may be applicable to Sanskrit also. That is found in Sanskrit can also be found elsewhere. But what is not found here in Sanskrit cannot be found elsewhere. So when we talk so high about this Sanskrit knowledge, at the same time, there are some wrong notions. There are some myths or untruth which are associated with this language. The first one is most of the people have this misconception that Sanskrit is not suitable for spoken language. It cannot be spoken as a language. It was never spoken. So that was the very popular misconception among the people. But here I can give you some proof to show that Sanskrit was a predominantly spoken language right from the time of yore. We all know that Srimad Valmiki Ramayanam is the first and foremost kavya. That is why it is called as Adi Kavyam. There we have a proof that show that Sanskrit was a spoken language even at the time of Ramayana. In Sundarakandam, what happens? Hanuman goes to Sri Lanka and finally finds Sita in the Ashokavanam. So before leaving from that place, he decides to have a conversation with Mata Sita. So at that time he thinks in his mind in the following manner, or Valmiki describes the situation like this: Aham tu atitanuschaiva vanarascha visheshataha vacham cha udaharishyami manushim iha samskritam or manushim iva samskritam yadi vacham pradasyami dijatiriva samskritam ravanam manyamanamam sita bhita bhavishyati. So in these two slokas, there are two phrases that we have to make a note of. In the first sloka, Hanuman says, Manushim iha samskritam. And in the next sloka, he says that Dvijati riva samskritam. He says that I have to talk to Mata Sita ji. If at all I want to converse with her, I have to adapt to a particular dialect of Sanskrit called Manushi Samskrita. So from this we can know that there are different types of dialects of Sanskrit was prevalent at that time. And the particular variety of Sanskrit spoken down south in the southern part of India seems to be a Dvijati, another variety of Sanskrit, Dvijati Riva Samskritam, which was popular among the Kishkinda region, and even people in Ayodhya, Sri Lanka, they were speaking in this language. So that is why Hanuman thinks that I should not talk to Sita ji in Dvijati Sanskrit. If I do so, then Sita may have an apprehension that I am Ravana, because Ravana will talk in this dialect. But if I talk in the dialect which is used in the region of Ayodhya and Nepal like that, that is Manushi Samskrita, then she will have confidence in me. So this reference clearly shows us that Sanskrit was not only a spoken language, it was spoken throughout Bharat, starting from Himalaya till Sri Lanka, and there are also so many spoken forms of Sanskrit. So this is one strong proof. Another proof is available from the popular kavyam called Silapadikaram. This Silapadikaram is one of the Panchamaha Kavyas in Tamil literature. It is written some 1500 years ago. So it was written by the famous Saint Ilango Vadigal. In this Kavya, there is a description that a Brahmin from Kashi, he comes to the Madurai region where he is in search of some information. So at that time, he meets with the hero of this Kavyam, that is Kovalan. So Kovalan has a conversation with that person coming from Kashi. He has the palm leaf in his hand and it is written in Sanskrit, and Kovalan reads the Sanskrit verse from the palm leaf and talks to him in Sanskrit and gives all the necessary desired information in Sanskrit. So this is another proof that Sanskrit was a spoken language. In other kavyas like Naishadhiya Charitam also, we have got many references. In one such reference, all the kings from different parts of India, they gathered together for the Swayamvara of Damayanti, and at that time they decide to talk to each other in Sanskrit because it happens to be the common language. So there are, we can go on quoting such references. So we have to remove this wrong notion, this misconception that Sanskrit was never spoken. That is untruth. In reality, Sanskrit was a spoken language and is a spoken language, and it will continue to be a spoken language. Then majority of the people have another wrong notion that Sanskrit language is full of mantras, full of slokas. It is only apt for rites and rituals. It is used only in temples or in some other rituals only. But the reality is not like that. Only 5% of literature is related to such mantras, chanting, and all the related to rituals. But the 90% of the rest of the literature that deal with variety of subject, as I told you already, like chemistry, physics, astronomy, astrology, like that. It offers solution not only for the thing which are related to the Homa, Yaga, rituals and this. Even it deals with so many complicated, complex things like science, maths, everything. Let me show an example for this, where we deal with the famous puzzle called Knight's Tour puzzle. Let's play this video and have a look at it. So this puzzle predominantly deals with the movement of horse in the chessboard. The condition is the horse should reach each and every square. That is, there are 64 squares present in the chessboard. So the horse should reach each and every square. But the condition is it should come to one particular square only one time. But in this video, we have seen that in both the method, whether it is the closed tour or the open tour, repeatedly the horse that came to a particular square more than one time, sometimes two times, sometimes three times, like that. But there are a lot of researchers and still going on. Mathematicians are coming out with various types of permutation combination. These are all modern findings and modern research. But can you believe that if I say this solution for this knight's problem was offered by a poet in who lived in the 13th century? Okay, let's move on to the next slide, where we will see that video. So Swami Vedanta Deshika, we all know him very much. He is also known as Nigamanta Mahadeshika. He wrote this poetry called Paduka Sahasra. Okay, in this the verses 929 and 930 that deal with the this famous night tour problem, and the second sloka offers the solution for this, and it's a beautiful solution there. The beauty is here, if you adopt this style, the horse will come to particular square only once. So the first sloka is like this: Viragasam Sadaradhya Vihataka Tata Mata Satpaduke Sarasa Ma Rangaraja Padam Naya. So this is an Anushtup sloka. We all know that in Anushtup, each and every pada there will be 8 letters. So 4 padas are there. 4 into 8, 32 syllables will be there. So we have to write the syllable in each and every square. So half of the chessboard is covered with the this sloka. Okay, Rangaraja Padannaya. So to cover the next half of the chessboard, we have to write the sloka again. Tiragasam Tadaradhya Vihataka Tata Mata Satpaduke Sarasa Ma Rangaraja Padannaya. So this is how by writing each syllable in one particular square, we can cover all the 64 squares of the chessboard. So now Vedanta Desika, he composes another verse using the very same letters available in this board to form another sloka. That another sloka gives us the solution for this puzzle. That is the beauty. So by writing only one sloka and composing another sloka with the very same alphabets available in this sloka, he has found out the solution. And one more beauty is here, if we adopt this, we can easily bear the movement of the horse simply by taking these slokas by heart. That is number one advantage. Okay. Then number two, here the horse visits each and every square only once. So this is such a beautiful solution offered by Vedanta Desika. But his main motive is not to offer the solution for this knight's problem. Actually, this Paduka Sahasram sings in praise of the Paduka of Sri Ranganatha, the residing deity of Sri Rangam. So he composed this Paduka Sahasram 1000 verses overnight. That is another beauty of this composition. So what I am trying to say is such applications are available throughout the Sanskrit literature. The main motive of this composition is only devotional. Okay, if we consider this as a devotional literature, then we will not be able to find out its application in another field also, just like this, the solution for the knight's problem. Similarly, we have got a lot of such literature which are mainly misunderstood as only religious take or devotional or only related to rites and rituals like that. There are so many facets of the very same mantras and very same slokas. If we are able to decode them, understand them, then the surprise is waiting for us, just like the surprise waiting for us in the next slide. Yeah, this is a very popular mantram available in Rudram Chamakam. Yes, the mantra goes like this: Eka chame, Tisrascha me, Panchacha me, Saptacha me, Navacha me, Eka Dashacha me, Triyodasha chame, and it goes on like that. It goes up to Trayas Trigum Shatischa me. So if we generally see that it is a praise for Rudra. Then if we closely look at that, we may find out that it is giving a list of odd numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and it goes on up to 33. But this application can also be extended to further level. See, 1 plus 0, the before number for 1 is 0. If we add that, we get 1 and the square root is 1. Then Tisrascha me 3. The before number mentioned in this mantra is 1. If we add that, we get 4, which is the square root of 2. Then 5. The previous number is 4. 9. Its square root is 3. So like that, we can get this progression and the square root also. Everything is enlisted in this mantra. This is another facet of this mantra. Like that, there are so many Vedic mantras which deal with the science, maths, everything, and it talks about the speed of light, it talks about the rotation of the planets, even the circumference of Earth, everything is very casually mentioned. It is not that is their prime motive. They are intended for some other purpose, but at the same time, they are also able to convey this message also. Look at this sloka. This is very popular. It's available in Isavasya Upanishad, Om Purnamada Purnamidam. We are very much familiar with this verse. Okay, we can give a lot of interpretation for this verse, some behind philosophical interpretation or religious, or you may even call it as description of the Parabrahman or description of the Almighty God, like that. But there is one another interpretation possible, that it talks about the property of 0. See, if you subtract the 0 from the 0, again you will get 0 as the answer. So that is what you get from this sloka. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avasishyate. So this is another color or another dimension of the Vedic mantra. Look at this pi. It's a very, very important concept in mathematics. There are a lot of research done on this field. Even in our CVV, in our Chinmaya Vishwa Vidyapeeth, we celebrate a day called Pi Day. Pi value is beautifully calculated in Sanskrit literature. So look at this, a very simple formula for this. Chaturadhikam, Chatam, Ashtagunam, Dvasashtis Tata Sahasranam. Ayutadvaya Vishkambaha, Vishkambasya Asannaha, Vritta Parinaha. So the meaning of this verse is Chaturadhikam Shatam. That is, we have to add 4 to 100. Then it will become 104. Ashtagunam. Now we have to multiply this 104 with 8. Then Dvasashtihi Tata Sahasranam. So Dvashashtihi Sahasranam is 62,000. If we multiply 104 with 8, we will get 832 as the product. Then we have to add 62,000 to this, and the final result will be 62,832. Now Ayutadvaya Vishkambhasya. Now we have to divide it with 20,000. Then the result, the answer we get is Vritta Parinaha, the value of pi. Now in school days, we have studied the value of pi as 22/7 or 3.14. That's it. But look at here, Aryabhatta has arrived the value of pi up to 4 decimals, and even then he is so polite that he claims that this is only an approximate value. He didn't say that this is the exact value of pi. So that is the greatness of Aryabhatta. Now let's move on to the next slide, where we can have find an easiest way to by heart the 31 decimals of pi. This sloka helps us to learn the 31 decimals without any difficulty. See this sloka: Gopi Bhagya Madhuvrata Sringi Sodadi Sandiga Khala Jivita Khatava Galahala Rasandhara. So if we recite this sloka some 4 or 5 times, then this sloka is very, very easy for us to keep in our memory. And this sloka is in praise of Lord Krishna, but it has the hidden value of the pi up to 31 decimals. That is the beauty. How is it possible? Now there is a concept called Katapayadi Sankhya. Katapayadi Sankhya is a very famous concept. So if we decode this sloka with each and every syllable available in this Katapayadi Sankhya, then we can decode the whole sloka. Now you can very well see this Katapaya. These letters stand for 1. Then the rest of the letters should be written in that order. Ka, kha, ga, ga, nga, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Then ta will be again start with 1. Like that, if we have this table, it gives the value of each and every letter. So if we interpret the same value here, the first letter is go. So what is the value of ga here? 3. We should not take the vowel into consideration. Similarly, we should not also take a pure consonant, a consonant without a vowel. See, for example, bhagya. In this word, the gatara in between bha and ya is a pure consonant, so we should not take into consideration. Similarly, Sringi Shodadi, nakara there, in Sandhiga the nakara, again in Sandhara there also another nakara. So all these pure consonants we should not take into consideration. The rest of the combination of consonant vowel, there are 32 such combinations, and if we represent that, then pa, that stands for 1, 3.1, then bha is equal to 4, then 3.14 we get. Similarly, we get the value of a pi up to 31 decimals, and this method is made so simple. If we try for more than half an hour, even then we may forget the number value, 3.14159 like that. It requires lot of amount of practice and extraordinary amount of memory power, whereas I can close my eyes and easily recite the sloka Gopi Bhagya Madhuvrata Sini Swadi Sandiga Khala Jivita Khatava Galahara Rasandhara like that. So this is the beauty of this another advantage in Sanskrit literature. See this prayer available in Rig Veda: Taranir Vishwadarshato Jyotish Kudasi Surya Vishwamabhasi Rochanam. So this prayer is for the sun god. Lord Surya is being propitiated in this verse. While writing commentary for this, our celebrated commentator Sayanacharya, he casually mentions here, Tatacha smaryate yojananam sahasram dve shate dvecha yojane ekena nimishardhena kramamana namostute, like that. So here in this sloka, the meaning can be precisely said like this: the sunlight travels 2202 yojanas in half a second. So indirectly it talks about the speed of light. So here there are two technical terms involved. One is yojana, another one is nimisha. We have to understand this. Then we can easily arrive at the answer. What is the speed of light being spoken of in this sloka? So the nimisha is 16 by 75 seconds. So this calculation is available in some of the Puranas like Vishnu Purana and Markandeya Purana, like that. So the half nimisha is equal to 16 by 150 seconds. So the value of nimisha is found easily. But the calculation of yojana is little bit tricky. That we'll deal in the next slide. See here, the Vishnu Purana says like this: 15 twinkling of the eye. See the time taken to twink one time eye. That is called a nimisha. And 15 such nimishas equal to one kashta. And 30 kashtas make one kala, 30 kalas make one muhurta. And in a day we have 30 muhurtas, 24 hours. So this is our calculation. So we can put it in a summary like this: 15 nimisha is equal to 1 kashta, 30 kashta is equal to 1 kala, 30 kala is equal to 1 muhurta, and 30 muhurta is equal to 1 day. Thus, 1 nimisha is equal to 86,400. That is the seconds divided by 30 into 30 into 30 into 15. That is the muhurta, kala, kashta, and nimisha present. So that will give us the answer 16 by 75 seconds. This is equal to 1 nimisha. That's what I mentioned in the previous slide. Now half of the nimisha is 16 by 150. Now let us calculate the value of yojana in the next slide. And the detail is so much elaborate. It talks about, see, the paramanus, starting from paramanu, very minutest value possible. 10 paramanus equal to 1 parasukshma, 10 parasukshma equal to 1 prasarenu, 10 prasarenu is equal to 1 particle of dust, mahi rajas, dust that we can't even see with our naked eyes, you know. Then 10 mahi rajas equal to 1 balagra. Balagra means the tip of the bala, our hair. So if we have 10 such balagras, that is equal to 1 likya. Then 10 likyas equal to 1 yuka, and 10 yukas equal to 1 heart of barley. Barley is a kind of grain, you know, yava. It is called yava in Sanskrit, and the heart of it is called yavodara. Then 10 yavodaras is equal to 1 barley. So this is an approximate unit, because all barley grains will not be of a uniform size, you know, it will vary. So the average size. Then 10 barley grains equal to 1 angulam. Then 6 angulams equal to 1 pada. Then 2 padas equal to 1 vitasti. Then it is also equal to 2 spans, and 2 spans equal to 1 hasta. 4 hastas equal to 1 dhanu or dhanda, and such 2000 dhanus make 1 gavyuti. Okay, 4 gavyutis is equal to yojana. Now this is very, very complicated. So in a shortcut, we can say that after rounding of the value with the modern conversion, we can treat the standard value of 1 yojana is equal to 9 miles. We'll convert it into miles. Then the speed of light is equal to, in that sloka he referred, yojananam satam de sahasranam de dveshate dvecha yodane. So 2202 yojanas into 9 miles into 150 by 16. That's the seconds. So that gives us the value of this 1,85,973 miles per second. This is the speed of light mentioned by Sayana in his commentary. But the standard scientific value is 1,86,322. Look at how close the calculations come. But we need not think that our calculation has some lacuna or some fault. The difference is maybe because of the problem we have converting the value of yojana into mile. If we have a precise formula, if we do more research, then we may be surprised that both the modern value as well as the ancient value will be the same. So, but look at this was done some 1500 years ago, but whereas the speed of the light, it was only found in the last century. So this is how Sanskrit literature is a way very advanced, very forward in its thinking. Nowadays, there are a lot of hiccups to learn Sanskrit, particularly in schools and colleges. Should we take it up? Even in our recent national education policy, the 3 education idea is also implemented there. But still, the element of doubt is there to learn Sanskrit or not, whether it is meaningful, relevant, like that. But look, who are all studying Sanskrit in schools around the world? Please watch this video. So yeah, in foreign schools, we can see people they are taking up Sanskrit studies, and now we are hesitating. We are debating whether to learn Sanskrit or not. But in foreign countries, they have no such inhibition at all. In the next coming video, you can see they are even practicing Vedic way of life, Vedic lifestyle. They are practicing. Yes, move on to next video, please. This family who lives in Australia, they follow this Vedic way of life. Then in another next video, we can see people in Russia, they are performing the sacrifice, Homa, just like in the ancient time. Now we may wonder, okay, these are all the things that the Sanskrit has reached even America. Recently, the Vedic chanting was done in the White House also. So starting from Japan to America, the Sanskrit has spread everywhere. So that is the effect of Sanskrit. So irrespective of nation, it has reached. Now we may have a question: can we speak in Sanskrit? Okay, the application as a Homa mantra is there. Can we speak? Now watch this video as the answer for this question. So this is a village called Mathur in Karnataka, where all the people they talk in Sanskrit only. Then who are all speaking Sanskrit? Not only people in Mathur, in some other places also there are many people watch this video who are very fluently talking in Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is a very difficult language that cannot be spoken, or only learned people can talk, only a particular sect of people can talk. All these are myths. Now look at the contribution made by our ancestors like Bharadwaj, Rishi Bharadwaj and Bodhayana. Rishi Bharadwaj, he came out with the Vaimanika Shastra. There is one and only manuscript available for it. And right now it is with NASA. And there is a massive research going on that project. Similarly, the contribution of Aryabhatta, again Kautilya, Vishwakarma, then Sushruta, Charaka, lot of people, they have made extraordinary contribution in this language, and all the knowledge is hidden here. So the wealth we need. So there is a vehicle which is carrying this wealth, and that vehicle is Sanskrit. So we need both the wealth as well as the vehicle. We can't avoid the vehicle and want only the wealth. It is not fair. So to reach this wealth, we have to master Sanskrit also. So now we can think on this line: what is the relevance of Sanskrit in this modern day? See, there are some massive projects going on in the area of NLP, natural language processing, similarly computational linguistics like that, and archaeology. Recently, Ram Mandir was Shilas Nyasa was there, and the person, the archaeologist KK Muhammad, he proved that the archaeology survey, everything based on the knowledge of Sanskrit. In so many of his interviews, he has revealed that the knowledge of Sanskrit helped him to bring out the truth hidden in. And that is the another area is manuscript, where manuscriptology, lot of manuscripts are waiting there to see the light of the day. We have to take those manuscripts and critically edit them. And Sanskrit is also applicable in the areas like journalism. In modern days, there are so many e-journals, e-paper. You will be surprised to know that there are some newspapers like Sudharma, and some e-journals like Prachi, Prajna, Sambhashana Sandesha, and everyday news, Sampratika Vartaha. That is everyday e-journal. Similarly, in TV and radio, it offers lot of career in Sanskrit. There is an online radio called Divya Vani, which is devoted for 24 hours Sanskrit programs like that. And in TV, there are so many programs related to Sanskrit, Sanskrit news, and Janam TV, one of the Malayalam channel that plays exclusive 15 minutes news item every day in Sanskrit. So Sanskrit need not be deemed as a language of past. It is not a Mrita Bhasha, it is an Amrita Bhasha. it is full of nectar, and its application to modern languages in this modern time is also relevant, and we will be definitely benefited if we learn this language. And with this, I conclude my lecture. I thank you all for your patience hearing, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.